You are about to enter a great adventure.
This is Strutting from Gorilla.
Welcome everyone back to Strutting by Gorilla. Strutting from Gorilla. Wow, I'm even messing up the beginning of the podcast here, Mike. Wow. Okay. So
fire him.
Yeah, I know. Well, hey, listen, we have a great podcast here today. This is the Strutting from Gorilla podcast. We got two guys in their 30s, fans of wrestling, just chatting about wrestling here. We have a very special guest, our first guest that's coming back for a second time. So he must have liked us the first time, which is great. We have Vinny Berry here on with us today, which we'll get to in a second. But Mike, how you doing today?
I'm really excited to talk to Vinny about the book. I thought it was really great, and I'm just looking to get into some wrestling.
So am I. Just before we get started here, if you don't know, we have our Twitter and our TikTok, which is at @from_gorilla. And then we have our Facebook, which is at SFG Podcast, and our Instagram, which is at SF Gorilla Pod. So lots of socials going out there, but it's a great opportunity for anyone to reach out to us and tell us how bad we suck or how great we are. So without further ado, though, let's get to the man of the hour. We have Vinny Berry here from us. He came on last season with his book Lance by Chance, which we loved. He just released a new book. It is the Pro Wrestling Vault Volume 1, and he's got his website, which is wrestleville.com. Vinny, how are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Awesome. We're excited to have you back here with us. So, tell us a little bit about this book. What was your inspiration for it this time around?
Well, honestly, I had another project in mind that I was going to write, and I thought that I wanted to tell the story about how wrestling promotions across the country were affected by COVID. And I had picked like a half a dozen or so, all over across the United States, like one in Florida, one in New England, and one in Colorado, Texas, California. And I believe there was one more, but anyway, that idea kind of died when the people who I reached out to weren't really, I don't know if they were consumed with what they were dealing with or just not interested in it. I had one guy do an interview with me, but no pictures. I had one guy give me pictures, but no interview. And then, some people, like I said, it just didn't seem like they were real interested. When I was talking to my friend, John Paul LeBlanc, a lot of his pictures are in this book.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yep.
He's a photographer from New Orleans, and he covers the Gulf Coast. Well, he says, well, you should do something down here in Louisiana because it's so bad with, the commission, a lot of the promotions in Louisiana were going to Texas and Mississippi and I think even Alabama just to run their shows, right?
Oh, wow.
And so he was like, and I got pictures of all that stuff. Well, somewhere along the line, we just decided to combine the stories that I had written with the pictures that he had taken and just kind of ditch the COVID pandemic idea, which was short-lived anyway. But
yeah,
I thought that, why not? Because he was like, look, I have 10,000 pictures. I'm not going to do anything with them. He takes pictures for the boys. He shares them with the other wrestlers, takes promo pics and stuff. And he goes, I'm just not going to do anything with them. If you want to put them in one of your books. And I thought, you know what, this is a perfect time to take his work and my work, put it together and just, have a wrestling smorgasbord, so to speak,
So where, for the listeners that haven't had a chance to read it, give them a preview. I know there's a bunch of interviews and stories from different wrestlers throughout the nation, some new, some old.
Right.
What made you decide to pick them? Give the listeners kind of a preview of what's in there.
Well, one of the reasons why I picked them is because they said yes to the interview.
That's a great answer.
That's always great criteria. Will you let me do this? Sure. Thank you.
Well, the pictures, of course, are all from what I would say the Gulf Coast. The middle section of the pictures. And then, of course, you've the stories they range from, and the feedback that I've been getting back on this is, I got a real nice write up from Slam Wrestling, and Slam Wrestling liked the fact that, that a lot of people who don't get press,
yes,
were getting exposure. Some of these people have been around for 20 years. Some of these people have been around for 2 years, but someone was giving them exposure, and it wasn't the same old people that we read about. It wasn't Sabu and Jim Duggan and, Ricky Morton and Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes and all these guys. It was a different list of people. And I do get some veterans in here. I got some veterans in here that I'm really, really can't believe that I had an opportunity to talk to, but Tracy Smothers is one. Harley Race is one. Ricky Morton is one. C.W. Anderson is one. Mm-hmm. I've always liked C.W. Anderson's work. I mean,
it's been around forever.
Yeah. Been around forever. Supermex Sean Hernandez.
Yep.
And there's, a total of 3 NWA champions. Mike Rapata may not be one of the most well-known NWA champions out there, but he was champion 2 times in the 2000s, and then we got Harley Race, and Tim Storm has got a couple stories in here, and then we've got 5 NWA junior heavyweight champions. So who are Ricky Morton, Chase Owens, Eric Andrews, Mr. USA, and one more. Who's my?
Well, I'm partial to Mr.
Barrett
USA.
Brown.
Vinny, I got to say I'm partial to Mr. USA because the book that I received had a Mr. USA autograph.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, and that's the neat thing about the book is that every book that's purchased on the website will come with a surprise autograph from one of 14 wrestlers in the book.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, and again, some of the guys that participated in that were Dale Wild, Mr. USA, Greg Anthony, C.W. Anderson, Tim Storm, Bobby Fulton, Damian Wayne, Chaz Taylor. So there's some really good ones in there that people are going to be like, wow, I can't believe I got this guys. And then the other guys that aren't well known, to me, I think when you read their story, you kind of get that connection, and then you have a book signed by them, and it makes it special for the reader. And I was really grateful that when I reached out to these men that they were willing to do that for me, so it was nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just wonderful what you've done with this book because it's such a great collection of, like you said, guys that never really, that you don't hear a lot about, you don't hear a lot from. So to be able to even have, some of the stories that they're giving you, it's not even just like interviews. Some of them are interviews where you're kind of asking questions, and then others are sort of write-ups about their lives and stories in their career in wrestling. And I just think that's such great work. And another thing that I think you might have already sort of seen this happen, but you've basically documented this transition within the NWA throughout this book from Bruce Tharpe to Billy Corgan. And I just thought that was like really cool to see, like over a lot of the interviews from like 2017 to 2018, 2019. I just think it's fascinating to see the NWA work through that time and then into right when Billy Corgan had sort of taken over.
Another thing I thought was cool about the book, I really didn't see this until, after I read it half a dozen times, right? But I started seeing like this connection, of the stories, like Van Horn, right? He teams with his tag team partner was Dale Wild. But by the time you get to Dale Wild's story, he doesn't like Van Horn anymore.
Yeah, right.
Right?
The storyline continues. Yeah.
Yeah, the storyline continues. And then Ricky Morton and Chase Owens' story ties in together. Barrett Brown, Eric Andrews, and Mr. USA story ties in together.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Michaels and Tracy Smothers' story ties in together. And speaking about Tracy Smothers, is every guy that I've ever talked to that has mentioned Tracy Smothers has always said how giving of his time was to pass on the business, and, I've never met one guy who's brought up Tracy Smothers and never told me that story. I know when Tracy Smothers comes up in the conversation, I know what they're going to say because that's who he was,
Yeah. And that's something you appreciate, right?
Right. Yeah.
You just don't see a lot of that. And so it's great to have this guy who his reputation is, this guy's just willing to give back to the business. That's all he wants to see, is to see it succeed. And he's so unselfish in a business that's typically pretty selfish.
Right. And why I'm so proud of this book is that, it's 35 short stories. They're all different, right? I mean, you pick up Lance's book and you're going to read about World Class and you're going to read about Lance, and that's what it's about, right? But if you commute or if you have troubles committing to a big book, like I do. If you notice, my most of my books, well, both of these ended up about the same page numbers, like 224, 230, right? And that was by coincidence, but I got people like, well, my book's 400 pages. I was like, scared of you, bro, because, I'm probably not going to pick it up, because it's hard commitment for me to commit to a book like that.
It's a huge commitment.
Yeah, it is. And these are easy reads. The cool thing about this is that, if you commute, you could read 2 stories before you get to work, or you come home, you read a story, eat dinner, or after dinner, read a story, go to bed. You're not committed. Oh, I got to finish the whole thing to find out, And what's cool about these stories too is that, they're not like war stories or road stories. Like, these are stories about, these guys shared from their heart, and told me these stories about, like, Sir Mo talked about how he met Nelson,
It's one of the most heartwarming stories. I love that piece.
Yeah. One of my favorites is Van Horn. Have you read Van Horn's story?
Yeah, I did get to read his.
That guy wrestled for 5 years in a 20-year period.
It's wild,
right?
It's wild how he split that up.
It's a wild story, and what was really cool about that was that he thought that he'd made it. He was wrestling for Jerry Lawler and Jerry Jarrett, and they were called the Beach Boys, and they dressed like Beach Boys. Yeah, and they wore jams. But his partner had like a stout, like a wide trunk or a wide base or whatever. Yeah. But he kept on tearing his pants. And so he said, hey, they went to the King and said, hey, do you think maybe we can wear spandex? And he goes, hey, I'll get back with you in a minute. So Jerry Lawler came back and, hey, when a guy in the business has been in here for 5 minutes and tells me how to do wrestling, well, they got fired.
Yeah.
Well, after that, he he did some job work in WWF, and then he hooked up with this guy named Motley Cruz,
Yep.
and they painted their faces like the guys in the Warrior movie. Remember?
Yeah. Yep.
Warriors,
The Road Warriors. Yep.
come out and
Yep.
play.
Yep.
Well, like those baseball guys with the white
Yep.
paint and the black, and they dressed up like that. They ran into Bruiser Brody in St. Louis. He booked them a few times. He was they were going up, they were wrestling the Fantastics. So they were getting a pretty good push, right? And Bruiser Brody said, "Hey, look, you guys will do amazing in Japan because they love wrestling and they love baseball.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take you guys with me. Here's what you need to do. Get your passports, get your business in order. When I come back from Puerto Rico, that's when we're going to go."
Yeah.
Right.
No, that was a
we
good
all know how
story.
that worked out.
Yeah, we all know what happened. He never came back from Puerto Rico.
Nope. He never did.
And those are the stories that are in this book. And I think fans will appreciate it. And, you know, I wanted to preserve like the history and these moments in wrestling that, you know, kind of like stories that don't get shared too often.
Well, I was just about to say, it's one of those things where ever since WWE and WCW, there's been no real territories, right? The territory is the death of the territories. And it's nice to see someone that's able to focus on these smaller promotions or even like semi-large promotions and be able to get these stories from inside there so people can understand, hey, look, there's more to wrestling than just what you see as the sports entertainment, right? Like our generation, the generations before us all had wrestling and they thought it was real, and it's not, right? It's a choreographed athletic event. And to hear these stories and some of these new people and how they learned about the business. And, one of the ones that I found the most fascinating was the bushwhacker one. I had no idea that they were the sheep herders and they were this like violent tag team that then comes to WWE. They give them the old bushwhacker dance, and now they're one of the best fan favorites, PG guys around,
Yeah. What a stark contrast, right?
They were scary, dude.
I haven't had a chance
to see. Yeah, I never got to see any of their sheep herder stuff. It's so wild.
When I was living in Dallas, they were wrestling in San Antonio, and Jonathan Boyd was with them at the time. Butch had to go back home for. See, I thought that Butch Miller was a new guy when they went to WWE, but he wasn't. He was one of the originals. What happened was when I discovered them, he had to go back home, take care of some family business. That's how Luke put it. And so Jonathan Boyd stepped in, and man, those guys were scary. I mean, when I saw what they were doing, I was like telling my brother, don't tell mom that we're watching this. I couldn't believe what we were watching. Stuff. Yeah. I was like, I can't believe this is on TV.
The originators of hardcore before it even
absolutely
existed,
right? And they said they got that in Puerto Rico.
I believe that. We all believe that. We all believe
it makes sense.
Yeah. No, we're on here again with Vinny Berry. He's the author of the Pro Wrestling Vault Volume 1, just released. Was there any sort of like common theme that you got from these wrestlers when you talk with them? Obviously, you have a slew of, I don't even know how many wrestlers are in there. It's got to be 40 to 50, would you say?
It's it's 30. Let's see, it's like 32. Two guys, I think. Okay. I believe two guys have two stories in there. So there's 35 stories.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Was there any sort of common theme when you talked to these guys amongst them, or was it just kind of whatever they wanted to talk about? Let's talk about some stories, or
Well, they all love wrestling.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was basically, you know what? It was funny. It was basically how the conversation went, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It was like on that interview I got with Ricky Morton, I called and talked to his partner and said, hey, I'd like to do something about the school. And he says, okay, I think Ricky will want to do it. And I believe he gave me his number. I can't remember how it came about, but I called him. And the first time I talked to him, he goes, yeah, I'm real busy, man. I'm going to go to a show. I'm driving. And, but let's make a time for someday next week. Okay. And I called him and I said, hey, do you got some time? He goes, yeah, I got some time. I'm busy. I'm getting ready for a trip and a repairman's coming. And, and I could hear the dog and I could hear like he was moving around and stuff. And he talked to me for about 18 minutes. Yep. And he goes, okay, man, I got to go. And I was like, okay, but one more thing. Hold on. and after I did that about 2 or 3 times, finally he just clicked. Because he had to go. I could hear. I could hear the dogs barking, the doorbell going off, him saying, I'll be right there. So I knew it was time for him to go. And when I got done, I thought to myself, I got nothing. I got nothing. And then I thought, well, I'll just listen to it and see what I got. Maybe I'll make a Q&A out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was, the information he gave me was perfect. It was like, it was a nice little story. He talked about him and Robert being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And then he talked about his school and his philosophy of wrestling. And it turned out to be a nice story. But that was one I thought that, well, that'll just be a nice memory for me,
Of course. Yeah. Bucket list right
there.
It
turned out to be a good story. And there's a lot of, good stories in there. The one on Big Ramp, is he hilarious or what? The manager from New Orleans.
It was so interesting reading that. I was like, what? Who is this guy? He just like, that's it for me. This opened up my eyes to so many different guys that I just like never heard of. And so like Big Ram was one of them. I was like, who is this manager? And like, why have we not heard of him? Like, why have I not seen his stuff on YouTube? So like now part of one of the things I like about this book is, for me, I just start getting curious and I'll go down rabbit holes on YouTube. So now I'm just going to start doing that with some of the people that I kind of running through in this book.
Yeah, his story appears on page 50, and the picture of him on the top of the story, he's about to elbow drop a little baby doll. There's a baby doll right there on the hilarious, man. I mean, I just laughed so hard when and you got to kind of look at that picture, and the little girl whose baby doll belongs to she's all wide eyed looking at him, like, so he is a lot of fun to talk to. I've talked to him a couple times. I started a podcast about a year ago, and I've got some interviews on there. I like, look, I think it's obvious. I love independent wrestling. I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's great. I think it's good for this country. I think it's good for the business. I like the fact that you can pay up to $20 and still, no matter where you sit in the building, it's a decent seat. Mm-hmm. You can get there 15 minutes after bell time and still get in. And no matter if there's no seat, you can stand in the back and usually have a pretty good, because that's happened to me where standing room only, and I was okay with where I was standing,
Yeah.
So,
no, the independent thing is a really good point, because one of the things we talk about all the time on this podcast is how ever since WWE was this giant company that was the only competition out there, they have this like cookie cutter mold of how they bring these superstars up, and having these independent, wrestling territories and companies, you're able to actually get people that have different styles, right? It's not just this cookie cutter mold, and it's not just influenced by one company. It's influenced by multiple people, mostly legends that are running these companies. So I would 100% agree with you. And this book does a really great job of kind of explaining that in these different stories. One question though, that I did want to ask though, between the Lance by Chance book and this book, what were some of the struggles that you had? Was it easier writing this one? Did you enjoy the Lance by Chance one, writing that one a little bit better? Which one did you like? I mean, they're both great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no, but they're two totally different.
Totally different.
They're
different.
Yep.
Night and day. There's nothing. I had one of my friends was like, the thing he liked about Lance was that the fact that it drove him to get to the next chapter because it was so exciting. But he was like, man, you've got 34 stop signs in this thing. You know what I mean? Because you read a short story and you stop, and then you read a short story and you stop. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I've always wanted to write a book like that. I wanted to write a book of short stories. But I was like, what am I going to write? And people were like, hello, wrestling. And I was like,
yeah.
And I was like,
perfect.
Yeah, well, that's what I've been doing. Right. I mean, so, I write because I love to write, and I'll put the stories on the website. I'll leave them up there for a little while and take them down. But then I thought, you know what? There's a whole audience out there that doesn't even know that my website exists, and so I thought, to share these stories and these pictures, I've already gotten emails like, this guy needs, like my friend, they're saying this guy needs to do an in color coffee table book with his photos.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, he definitely does.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, they're amazing. I mean, I'm going through his pictures for the volume 2, and I came across Kevin Steen. I've came across Trina. Well, Zelina.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
What was her name? Trina.
I can never remember.
Yeah, I can't.
never remember.
Trinidad. Or Thea Trinidad.
Oh, yeah.
Zelina Vega.
Yeah.
And so I came across, some of her, I guess, early years of wrestling. And I thought, and I told my friend, I said, I know who this is, but I don't know who is it. You know what I mean? It was like,
right.
And he goes, oh, that's Zelina Vega. And I was like, oh, wow. So, I'm still finding treasures in his photos. And I said, dude, you got to tell me about photos like this. You got to tell me that Kevin Steen is in your archive. Yes. And he goes, dude, do you know how many pictures I've taken? And literally they're up thousands and thousands.
Oh man. Well, that sounds like a project that we'd be looking forward to at some point down the line.
Absolutely.
I had a question for you, Vinny.
Yeah.
We've been talking about just following a lot of these guys in sort of in the NWA and you talking about that and your love for it. A lot of these guys were in NWA during this sort of time period where, I've been calling it like pre-Corgan, like before he sort of took over and kind of put it back out on, on streaming and stuff. With their resurgence, like, have you gotten a chance to like talk with some of these guys that you had interviewed a couple of years ago about like what is it like for them kind of seeing this sort of, I don't know if the perception about the NWA is changing, but like have you been able to touch base with some of these guys since that time?
Yeah, I've talked to Tim Storm, and I've talked to since then. I've talked to Sal Renaro and Jeremiah Plunkett.
Okay.
Yeah. Who are working with them now. But Tim, he really likes what they're doing with the NWA. He's doing some commentating. He's doing a little different role, but he still plans to wrestle as much as his body will let him, and
yeah.
I mean, he's 58 years old, which is
he looks great though.
He's amazing.
he had a match with Nick Aldis that I had watched on one of the early NWA powers on YouTube, and it was fantastic. He did great.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I enjoy watching him, and he's a great guy to talk to. And yeah, I mean, a lot of the people that talk with me they're great people. I mean, and I've, people say, well, who would you like to interview that you haven't already? You know, Sometimes it's funny how I'll see somebody and I think, oh, they've got an interesting story, right? They all got a story,
They all do.
And so I thought, I'll reach out to them, and if they say no, then I'll go on to the next guy. I interviewed a gentleman on my podcast, Eric Dillinger. I haven't posted but he's from I want to say Indiana. He wrestles in the Midwest, but he this past year has been doing a lot of death matches.
Really?
I've never talked to a deathmatch wrestler, and I was curious about it, and I reached out to quite a few. I mean, probably 6 or 7, and nobody was, like, yeah, we'll get back with you, and never got back with me. And I reached out to a friend of mine. You guys know who Congo Kong is?
It sounds familiar, but I wouldn't know who it is off the top of my head.
Okay, he was on Impact. He was a big guy from the jungle, and he kind of, he wore like a loincloth and painted his face green or with a big old cross. And
I think I know who you're talking about.
He's from that area as well, and I reached out to him because he knows Corporal Robinson, who's a big deathmatch guy. Yep. Matter of fact, Corporal Robinson helped him with his gimmick of Congo Kong. He wrestled as Osiris for a long time. And when he changed his gimmick to Congo Kong, it was like, it
took off.
It took off, right?
Yeah.
So I was like talking to him, and I said, hey, man, do you know any guys that do death matches? Because, obviously it's not my style of wrestling, right?
Yeah.
But,
right. Yeah.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan.
I mean, I'm with you, Vinny. It's not my preferred style.
But there's a lot of people out there that like it, right?
They do.
So, and I was very interested in it. And so I told him, I said, look, I'm going to ask you some serious questions, not like, oh, I'm trying to catch you or I'm trying to, corner you. And, I'm seriously asking these questions out of interest,
Yeah. Curiosity.
It's like, I mean, it's gotta hurt, and, how bad have you gotten hurt, and what is the danger, and what are the waivers like? And, and you know what? This guy was so giving of his time, and he was so gracious, and he wasn't offended by anything I asked him. I didn't ask him, and he, like I said, I wasn't trying to I wasn't taking him to trial. I was very interested in what drives a person to want to do this, because I thought it's
an interesting psychological profile, at least.
Right. And so, those are the stories that I come across. I got a story that I'm going to put in volume 2 that was just jaw dropping when the story was told to me. It was Blake Christian. He just was in NXT.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Dude's going to be fine without NXT.
Absolutely.
Yep. He told me this story, and this is going to be in volume 2, but he and his girlfriend, they were still friends. They weren't dating anymore, but him and this girl and another friend, they went to a house party, and the friend that came with him got seriously drunk. And so they were like, look, we should take him home. Do you want to take him home now? And the girl wanted to stay. And he goes, well, why don't I take him home and then I'll come back and meet you. And then we'll just go from there and then we'll leave. And she goes, yeah, that's great because I want to stay for a little while longer. Well, in the time that he had left, and I don't know what the time span was, maybe 30, 40 minutes, who knows, but a fight broke out at that party. And somebody in that fight pulled a gun out. Well, when the guns came out, everybody scattered. People scattered outside, people scattered in other rooms and down the hall and whatnot. And his girlfriend, or the girl, went into a bathroom with some other people, and the gun went off, and the bullet went through the wall, and it struck the girl, and she died.
Oh my God!
Oh my God, that's awful.
Yeah. And he told me that he couldn't get out of bed. You know, the depression and the grief that he had felt, and so his dad came to him and said, look, son, we got to do something, you know? I mean, we got to move on, you know, we've got to carry on with our life, you know? And his dad was willing to do anything, and he knew his son loved wrestling. He ended up, his dad found this wrestling school in Tennessee, and he went up there, and, you know, his dad, you know, told the guys what his son was going through and whatnot. And they took him in, you know, and he lived up there, and he worked through his grief, you know, with wrestling, you know. Right. And now look at him today, you know. I mean, he's on GCW, you know, he was on NXT. He was traveling all over the place, and I mean, we're going to see that guy, if he stays healthy, we're going to see him for a long, long time.
I don't doubt it.
He's an exciting wrestler.
I agree here. Absolutely. And thank you for that preview, a little sneak peek into part 2, only here on Strutting from Gorilla.
It's going to have 41 stories in it.
Oh, you know, you're already in we have a couple minutes here left. That was going to be our last question, unless you have anything else, Mike. But my last question was going to be, what's next? I was going to say there has to be a part 2, right?
Right. There's going to be a volume 2, and it's going to have 40 individual stories, right?
Yep.
Like this one. But there's going to be one more story in it, and that story is going to be on the Northern Wrestling Federation out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Are you familiar with it?
I'm not. No, I'm not.
Well, Monster Abyss came out of there. Julian Hall came out of there. Okay. Jordan Clearwater, Carl Anderson.
Yep.
You know, so they've got a young lady, Nikki Victory. She is just on AEW Dynamite. And that's awesome. You know what? It's gonna be good. I've been going through. That's the only story that's not written right now. I've been going through the interview on that, and I've been starting to pen some stuff with that. But that's gonna be such a good story. I can't wait to, you know, just to really get into that. But
I can't wait to read it.
I know I'm already like intrigued. I just want to hear more.
Yeah. No, listen, hey, as always, Vinny, we appreciate you coming on here. Again, this is Vinny Berry, author of the Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 1. Make sure you check out his website. You can see some sneak previews on there of not only the book, but there's some other interviews with wrestlers as well. I've been on there. It's a great website. It's wrestleville.com. So, Vinny, we appreciate you coming on, and when you get the next book ready to go, we'll have you back. We love having you here.
Yeah.
I'd love to come back.
All right. Well, we will talk to you then. Best of luck with the book.
All right. Thank you very much.
Well, what a great treat to have Vinny Berry on with us again here on Strutting from Gorilla.
I'm so glad he came back on. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, it was awesome. And he's a great guy, very knowledgeable. You talk about a persistent dude who loves wrestling. Like, he fits our show to a T.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't wait for other people to be able to read this book, enjoy it, and just start going down the YouTube rabbit hole once they read some of these names and just get curious.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's the perfect. Like, when we were talking with them, it's kind of the same concept, right? We talk about, and everyone complains about everything that goes on in wrestling, and WWE this, and Vince is losing his mind, and well, you know what? Expand the horizons, right? And what a great way to do it than checking out his book. You learn about the past, you learn about the future, all the independent scenes. Like, maybe we're seeing another rise of the territories. You know what I mean?
I think we just might be.
Yeah, I think we might be too. So, well, anyways, we got a couple great podcasts coming up here in the next few weeks. So keep a lookout. Make sure you check us out on our socials. We got Twitter and TikTok. We are at @from_gorilla. Facebook, we are at SFG Podcast. And Instagram, we are at SF Gorilla Pod. Please reach out. Tell us we suck. Tell us we're great.
Yeah.
Say something, you know.
Well, and also, if you happen to be listening to us on an Apple device, go in and leave us a 5-star rating and review.
That's a great point. You can put 5 stars for Big Vito and 2 stars for Mikey Cash. That's fine too.
Okay. All right. That's enough.
All right. Well, anyways, thanks again for listening this week, and we will see you next time.
We now return your perception of reality to you. Until next time.